knife from a piece of San Mai that I forge welded in a different video. So if you want to see how I made this, you can go on my channel, and it's the only other San Mai knife that I've made so far. But I'm just going to start making the knife from this. So if you want to see that footage, go to the other video. You can see I forged this knife pretty much exactly to the profile that I wanted, just that kind of French / German chef knife shape. And so I didn't have much grinding to do to get to the profile. I was just kind of cleaning up the scale off the sides and all that. And then what I do before I quench is I grind the bevels part way, just because once it's hardened, it's much harder to grind the bevel, so it saves some time and belt. But I don't grind it too thin. Like, I don't grind all the way, just because then you have higher risk of warping or the edge wiggling during the quench, or even cracking. So I do most of that, all the finish work, after. pause the grinding process for a second just to talk about what I'm planning to do with this knife. I've been wanting to do what I think is called like a Volksschliff, or that's the German name for it, but it's kind of like a convex grind, but it convexes towards the edge and away from it. I couldn't find too much about like the dimensions about how far it should be, but what I was thinking was maybe like about a third of the like blade down towards the edge, convex it, and also a third from the spine, convex it towards the spine, and leave like a bulge in the middle. And to me, I think that's going to be better for you cut something and it's going to have empty space here. It'll be more like a shape like that, so it has some food release, where a flat grind, you know, it's just gonna stick to it. And I've had this idea for a while where this is a San Mai blade, so you'll see the edge here, and it might be cool if when I grind this bevel, it kind of reveals some of the pattern coming from the spine almost, to where you get like that 15 and 20 on the sides, kind of in the center strip that I kind of drew a little bit. And it also has the scale here on both sides that I don't like it there. And I want it to have just like a little bit of scale over here. So I think if I take the bevel towards the spine, start it right from where I want the scale to stop, then I'll have it join in with this convex bevel, leave this thickness alone, and just have a slight taper towards the spine, maybe like take away 2/3 of the spine material, so you also get a thinner spine with that too, which I like, because this is one of my thicker chef. This is the thickest chef knife I've made, but it's this thick because I planned on doing this convex grind on it. And I've also left the edge real thick. It's not real thick, it's less than a millimeter. But I'm going to do the convex. I'll just grind one bevel and then round it. I'll grind this as a bevel and then round it all. But yeah, we'll see how the pattern comes out, and which I think is going to make it look better. I might have to do some cut tests to see if it actually does have any kind of food release properties because of that. But yeah, I'm gonna get back to grinding and we'll see what it looks like. You can see that I drew on the blade with a Sharpie where I want the bevels for the convex grind to be. And you see I have one on the top towards the spine and one towards the edge. And all I did was I ground pretty much flat bevels. They were, not pretty much, they were flat bevels, starting from those lines going towards the edge and the spine. And then I removed the platen from my belt grinder, and I just used the slack belt to blend those sharp like bevels, so it was just one continuous curve. And that's how I did it. I think it worked very well, but I might be able to improve that later. So while I'm hand sanding, I'll tell you what I do with this is that when it comes off the belt sander, the final grits that I do are normally 220. With the belt sander, I might do a few passes of a 400 or 600 grit just to make it easier, but I always start hand sanding with 220. And it's just to get those, you know, belt sander lines out, get all the sand marks going this way, and it looks nicer, but it also evens out the surface. Like if this was a flat grind, which this one's not, you could tell there is a little bump in here. It's so hard to see though. You probably wouldn't be able to tell, but it just gets it all flat. For this, it's also helping me convex everything. It already looks very flat, but it has a extremely pronounced bulge where it just feels round. So I think it's gonna be good. But for the San Mai, I'll probably sand it to a very high grit, maybe 600 or 800, just so the pattern looks nicer. And I always sand, I kind of keep track of it, but it's like, if I go this way with one grit, the next grit I'll go a little diagonal, and then the next grit go straight again, just so you make sure you're always getting all your sanding marks out from the previous grit. But I won't show all that, and probably not the other side, but I'll sand this. I'll go 600 and we'll etch it. And so here's the knife, hand sanded. I got a little wet and leave it in there for about 5 minutes and we'll see the pattern. Here it's been 5 minutes. Get to see it. Pretty cool. I'm gonna go clean off the acid, knock this black oxide off the 15N20, and we'll be able to see the pattern a little bit better. Here's the blade with the all the oxide sanded off. It takes away the black, but what I'm gonna do now is put this in some instant coffee for a while, and just enough to darken the ADCRB2 core, and it won't really touch the 15N20. But what I'm seeing is, well, first of all, it's not exactly symmetrical, but I've never noticed that my San Mai ever is exactly the same on both sides. This one gets a little bit closer to the edge more consistently. This one's a little bit higher up, except for in a few spots. And what I think is really cool is I was thinking that from this convex, like towards the spine, that it would reveal more of the core, and that kind of in the bulge area you would see the 15N20 and you would get more of what's going on here, where you see the core coming from the spine. And you got it on this side, but not so much on this side. There's a few spots that I can barely see, like probably right there and there, where it started to come through, but it didn't. And like over here you have like a little island of 15N20 disappears towards the tip. But I still like it. It's an experiment, and I'll just take this as a flat reference surface to see the bulge. There you go. There's no flat surfaces on this, so I think it's gonna do good at food release. I'll do a little test probably at the end of the video to see if it actually does have food release, and yeah, if it works, then I'll probably be doing this on more knives. I did this handle by just drawing on the shape of the handle that I want, drilling the holes where they should be, and then I grind it close, but I leave it oversized because I end up doing majority of the shaping after I glue it up. I sand this area now because when the handle's on and it's all glued, there's no way to get to this part and sand it again, so I take it to like 600. I might only do the rest of the handle to like 400, but it just gives this like a kind of satin finish that
it's so thin by the end that you can't really see it, but I just like to do it now. And all you've missed from the other part is I took this big block and cut it down the center, put it back together. I keep the pins in it so that both of these are exactly the same when it goes on the handle.
Once I get the handle profile to the shape I want, what I do is I use my calipers and I make a bunch of lines all over the handle, mostly from either the center, like from that frame, or the pins, and I do that just so that each side comes out exactly the same, and I grind to those lines, and then I remove the platen and blend it all together before I go to hand sanding and just blend it all even further, so there's no facets or bevels. It's all just very smooth and feels good.
The knife is done, and I'm going to do some cut tests, but before that, a few things I want to point out about it are, I would do this for all my knives, but it's balanced perfect right where you're going to pinch it. It makes it feel lighter. It feels better, like cutting stuff. It's just more comfortable. Also, as you can see, like right here where this convex kind of roundedness towards the spine, where it kind of meets the thicker portion that's not convex, I left the shoulder like really exaggerated because I like how you can tell that it has this kind of double convex grind or bulge grind, but I could taper it, to where you don't see it, but for this one being the first one I've done, I wanted to show that off, so that's why I have that there. But we'll get to cutting, and I'll also do a comparison with a knife with a flat grind to see how the food release compares. So I'll just start cutting this, and I'm not a chef, so there's no knife skills here to cheat anything. I don't know. can see the big one kind of stuck, but it's not sticking, you know. I think it was just kind of towards the end, I didn't fully cut it off the base. But I'll go thinner slices, which I thought these thin slices would have stuck immediately. But it didn't. That's really popping off really quick. So it works, the that convex edge. But to compare, I have this knife, which is just a plain Chicago cutlery, flat grind, nothing fancy, but see if it sticks. And that's exactly what I thought. Like, yeah, not that I should be expecting this to have food release, but it sticks. And I'll also say I can feel a difference with how light this one is. I'm having to cut it more, where with mine it's just almost cutting itself. It's not a heavy knife, but it just the forward weight almost is cutting through it much easier than this. So I might have some shots at the end of this, but I'll say, you know, I really like the convex edge, and it's better than I thought, and I'm gonna be doing this on more of my knives just because that food, you can see it pops away from the food. And I'm using a cucumber here because it's not acidic like a tomato or fruit, where it's not gonna it's not gonna make a patina on this edge. So because I'm gonna be selling this one, and I don't want it to be altered in any way before it gets to whoever buys it. But I definitely like this. I guess it's a Volkslift grind, and I'll be doing it on some more knives because that works very well. And that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching.